Okay, so welcome everybody. Kitzur Shulchan Aruch, the abridged code of Jewish law. We're in chapter 12, and we are up to number 11, Yud Aleph. In chapter 12, paragraph 11. Okay. So, mitzvah loretz kol heilig beis knesses the beis midrash, or the shar mitzvahs. It's a mitzvah. Literally means to run, to go to shul, or to study, or for any other mitzvah. Now, of course, it has to be safe to run, and I'm not so good at running anymore, but it doesn't necessarily mean literally running, but it means a person should hurry. In other words, a person, when they go into shul, they should look like they're in a little more of a rush than when they leave shul. That's what we want to show. But a person should have an enthusiasm, so that when they go to a mitzvah, they should go with an enthusiasm. They should try and rush. Shneimar says, "Neither for l'dasas Hashem." Literally, let us run to know God. Seven also says, "Derech mitzvsecha oretz." It's the way of your mitzvah. In the way of your mitzvahs, I will run. Right? And therefore, fill Shabbos, mutalaras to the mitzvah. You're even allowed to run on Shabbos to do a mitzvah. Now, what's the amazing thing about Shabbos is that normally in Shabbos we're not meant to run, because on Shabbos we're meant to show that we want to do things differently than we do during the weekday. So normally you're not meant to go running on Shabbos, but to run to do a mitzvah you're allowed. So that's to get to the shul. Ava b'soich beis knesses, b'soich beis midrash, but in the shul or in the study hall, asur loretz, you're not allowed to run because it's disrespectful. Again, obviously there's a time and a place. Kids about to do something dangerous or something, God forbid, or whatever it is. There's time. But generally, we don't run in the shul. Okay, Voy lefnei Pesach. And when a person arrives, even though he rushed, he went to shul very quickly. When he arrives at the door, Yishmaat, he should just pause for a moment. Shelo yikanes pesa pisoin. That he shouldn't go in, literally suddenly, but in other words, shouldn't go flustered. Person should, have composure when they actually enter the shul building. And you should tremble with awe before the splendor of his glory, blessed is he. Now, unfortunately, most of us, of course, I can't speak on behalf of anyone here, I'm just speaking in general. Most of us don't necessarily feel the spirituality of God when we walk into the shul and feel the awe and actually tremble, but we should in concept. Why would a person of a Yom should say the pasuk? Some people have this custom, some people don't, and most people don't today, but there was such a custom. When a person entered the shul, they would say the verse, Vani b'roi chastecha v'goyim. Right, there's a few verses there, and it speaks about part of that is Ma Toiva Halecha Yaakov. Right, it's when Bilam came to curse the Jewish people, God forbid. So Hashem turned his curses into blessings, and the main blessing that he ended up giving was the Ma Toiva. How they translate it normally. How goodly art thou, thine tents, but how wonderful is the Jewish tent, and that refers to two meanings. One is the Jewish home, and one is the study hall. Because every other blessing that a person can have, too much can sometimes backfire. A person can have too much money, and they the whole time they can't even have a life. They're protecting their money and their investments, and they're managing, and they can't even do anything. Person can sometimes lots of things that can be too much, but the two things that can never be too much is Jewish family life and the study of Torah. You can never lose how much, no matter how much you have of all these things. That's a blessing. So as one of the meanings, and it was both simultaneously that of that blessing is the Matayva, was how blessed is the places where we go to study and different things. So a lot of people say that verse as they walk into the shul. Right. Shul kamoin netilas reshus. It's like, in a certain way, it's like asking permission to enter Hashem's house. And after a person should walk in, they should enter, they should conduct themselves with an awe, as if they're standing before a king. And in a community where Jews live on their own streets, they used to have ghettos. It's a mitzvah to put on the talis and tefillin, but in the house. But Yelech Kachel Beis Knesses, and walk to shul already in talis tefillin. Makom Shadarim Bein Umas, in a place where a person lives amongst other nations. Or if the way to shul is going to be dirty, people didn't clean after their dog and different things, and which can happen, then we shouldn't do that. We shouldn't walk in the street with tefillin in a place that's not going to be clean. People aren't going to be dressed properly, so which is pretty much the norm today. So therefore, yesh satay betzitzes lo nicht tefillin b'pruzda shel beis knesses. Should put on your talis tefillin in.
No, it's Yossi.
Yeah, in the vestibule of the shul, right in the foyer. And again, even though that's the ideal, most people don't do that today either, because the foyers aren't set up for that. There's not the space. There's not the Indian God space. Because in the ideal world, which unfortunately we don't live in, it's a wonderful, it's a great merit to be able to enter the shul already wrapped in one's talis and crowned with the tefillin. But practically today, most people, they're gonna in the shul proper put on the talis tefillin. That's going to be the okay. Yud base number 12. There's something beyond the person's control. They can't go to shul. The base midrash, it's health, or they're far away, or whatever it is. Someone's, whatever happens to be a person, unfortunately, at this day, whatever happens to be, they can't go to shul. But feel the shar minyan kavua yesh le'ezim nias melechis. He should try. So there's something holding him back that he can't go to another regular minyan. If possible, he should try and gather 10 Jews and daven make a minyan in his house. And sometimes that works, and sometimes it doesn't work. It's especially during the weekdays, if it's people at work, and it's a very difficult thing to do. But so, option number one, the ideal number one, is a person should daven and shul with a minyan. Number two, if that doesn't work out, he should try and make a minyan in his house. Now, if that doesn't work out, the EF shall loy, and if that's impossible for him, yispal al kapon mishashasim mispalim. Sha'az he eis rotzon. He should daven when he davens in his house by himself. He should try and daven at the same time they're davening in the shul. Right, and that way it's a time where all the people's prayers are being collected, and he davens at the same time with them. Now again, that also doesn't work sometimes, because the person's not attending because of health reasons. Quite often, they're not necessarily able to be available at a certain time. But again, that's the most ideal. So we said the most ideal person should go to shul daven with a minyan. Option number 2 is make a minyan in your house. Option number 3 is at least daven the same time as a minyan. And it says a mishahu dar b'makom she'ein shom minyan. And someone who lives in a place where there's no minyan. Yispal v'shasim yispal ba'aryos. Again, you should try and daven at the same time as people in the cities are davening. However, if a person can't do that because it doesn't mean he wants to study now, or this is a time where he's doing his work when we really shouldn't begin our own work before we prayed. So therefore, if a person needs to start their work early, they should, and there's no minyan available, whatever it is, they can daven early, already from sunrise. They daven at sunrise, and even if that's not the time, the minyan's going to daven later. That's what they do. All right. So that's if we can't make it. Now we're going to mention if someone can make it, but they're not feeling well enough to stay the whole time. So first of all, Hashem should bless us all. We should all have incredible health, and we should all be able to make it every day in good health and come early and stay later to study. But if God forbid not, what do we do? Yud Gimel, number 13. Someone he's feeling weak. And it's difficult for him to wait until after davening, after the whole minyan, to eat. Sometimes he has to eat because of medicine, or he's not feeling well, needs a bit of a little extra energy, some fuel.
Rabbi, there's a lot of background noise.
Okay, I'll just mute everyone. And if someone has a question, feel free to unmute. Okay, clear now? Oh Hashem. Okay, so they're feeling weak, and it's difficult for them to wait until after the davening to eat. So what should they do? They can daven early at home in order to be able to have the meal. Now, and then this is only if a person is davening in the house. They're not so well, they're davening in the house. They can daven early and eat. But if he's going to a shul with his minyan, then also unless it's the most pretty extreme circumstances, a person is not allowed to daven, right there in front of them and be finishing as they're starting, because it looks like he's excluding himself. But if he's going to leave before the minyan starts, also he really should. Unless you see that the congregation is delayed, and because of the delayed, he wants to daven before the time they meant to daven passes. So that was just someone who's just not feeling so great today. But now we're going to speak about someone who's a chayla, so someone who is actually, officially unwell. We're not talking about life-threatening situation, but before that, could even be someone has a serious flu, and can be many other things also. The person is not well, or there's some other unavoidable circumstance that a person finds himself. Then then they're allowed to daven early, even in the shul. And it's better, however, maybe to daven at home.
Rabbi, you have to mute again.
Yeah. So we'll just we'll just mention also, when we said, for example, a person is feeling weak, and let's say they get up at, it gets light, let's say 6 o'clock, and the minyan is at 8 o'clock, let's just say, just making up times, and so it's going to finish, let's say 8:45, and it's hard for them, they need to eat before then, so we're saying maybe they daven 6:15 or something, and they'll eat at 7. But that's if they can daven okay, and all they're doing is bringing it forward, right? if someone really needs to eat something before they can even daven properly, right? Then there's no point rushing the davening and having in mind, you know, even not officially in mind, but the fact it's in your mind that I'm trying to rush now so I can eat something. You know, as the saying goes, it's better to eat to daven than to daven to eat. Right? So it's if it's going to make a big difference, we learned it earlier. Right? We learned it earlier that if someone's needs, so they can have a little bit to eat before they daven. What you should try and avoid doing is sitting down, and having a nice 5-course banquet before you start to daven. But a little something just to get you by, it's no problem. Okay, Yud Daled, number 14. Yesh Omrim. There are those who sound like this. She'im his palut siba is knesses, v'achach baut siba achal is palasham. What happens is one minion davens in the shul, and then there's another minion. Right? You have this in many shuls. They have more than one minion, one after the other. There is an opinion. We're not really worried about this in actuality, because even though he's saying there is an opinion, we'll see what we actually do. That the chazan should not stand in the same place. Why? Because it could look like an affront, looks like you're insulting the first minion. It's like, why? It could look like, why am I standing in the exact same spot and doing the exact same thing the previous guy did? It could look like you're saying because the first guy did a lousy job. They weren't any good, so I'm coming to redo. Now, as I said, we're not worried about that today so much because everyone's used to there being multiple minyanim in many places. They even have certain shuls that they nickname the minion factories. Like every 5 minutes, every 10, 15 minutes, another minion, and it's just going. So people are used to this concept, but it used to be, you had your little towns, and it was an unusual thing. You had your one small little shtetl, and you had your one minion, or you had your one main synagogue. Yes, Susan.
In a really big temple, can you have all the two minions at the same time in different places in the temple?
In the same place, yes. So what was mentioning here is when the second one comes afterwards, the chazan shouldn't stand in the same spot as the first one.
Oh, okay.
Now, as I said, we're not even worried about that today. It's a yesh omrim. There are those who say, because it looks like, or could potentially look like, why is he going exact same place as the other guy? It looks like the other guy didn't do a good enough job, so we have to go fix it. So out of that concern, that's what he says. Now, this is if the first ones did not yet leave the shul. Once they've all left, let's say it's you start. So the shul next door to me, they have 6:30 minyan, and next minyan's at 8. So the first minyan's long gone. So it wouldn't be a problem. So now, now let's say the first minyan, it's a day that Torah is read, and the first minyan's in the middle of reading the Torah. The second minyan shouldn't take it out again and read it in the same synagogue, right? While the first minyan is still going, that is. You don't read it in the same place. Because again, it's looking like there was something wrong with the first reading. Yeah.
I mean, there are things that I see that I know that they don't do in a Sephardic minyan, but they do in the Ashkenaz minyan. Since you have a reader's table, and you have the place where the chazan is davening.
Yeah.
I see people standing at the reader's table and basically, they're davening there. I've always had a problem with that, since it has to be one person who is the chazan. I mean, what do we do in situations like that? Or is that completely permissible and I'm overly sensitive to the situation?
Oh, I think some people just stand there. Yeah, some people, it depends. Some people. It depends how formal the shul is, and by formal, I don't necessarily mean by the people's behavior. I mean the setup. Some shuls are more sort of like a shtibel. It's a very informal setup, and so someone stands here, someone stands there. It's not necessarily a problem. So, some places have very formal bimmer, and when people standing there, it can come across as a little bit disrespectful. What do you think? Go take a seat. What? I hear what you're saying. But I don't think people mean it. I think people, they're not thinking. It's a convenient place. It's a little bit higher than a table, so it's a place they put the sitter down and just ends up being comfortable. But I hear what you're saying. So after we had this whole chapter, we said, don't do this and don't do that and don't do all these other things because it looks disrespectful. The last sentence, Avol, however, in many congregations, we're not worried about any of these things. But everything should go like the custom of the congregation. So, if it's more informal, then it's more informal. And if it's very formal, well, then, you have certain shuls where, let's say you have 100 people in shul. Let's say 10 people are saying Kaddish. You have certain communities, only one person says the Kaddish. And even though other people, have a yahrzeit or something, they all listen to that one person. That's how it goes in those communities. And then there's some places where everyone who needs to says. So all these types of things, what's considered appropriate or inappropriate really goes after the custom of the place. Okay. The problem is nowadays, is you have everyone mixed up. Like you come to shuls and, it used to be you lived in a certain town. Someone lived in Poland, let's say. So even if you lived in a little shtetl in Poland, the chances are the next shtetl had the same customs also. And some other guy lived in Morocco, and they had their customs. All of a sudden today, you got people in the same shul. One guy's from Morocco, one guy's from Syria, one guy's family's from Poland, and one guy's from Russian, and someone else is from Germany. And this is where you get the mix-up. I told this story before. It's like this rabbi, he starts in a new shul, and there's a part of davening where some people stand and some people sit, and they're fighting over it. And he says, look, there cannot be fighting in the shul. He does research, and he finds a very elderly gentleman in a nursing home that he was a boy when they started the shul. He took a representative each side of this fight. He said, we're going to go to this man, and we're going to find out what the custom of the shul was when they started, and that's what we're doing here. Fine. So they go to the nursing home, and one person says to the man, so they stood up for this part of davening, right? And he says, I don't think so, the old man says. So the old one says, so they sat down. I don't think so. The rabbi says, well, you have to say they're fighting over it. Yeah, that's what I think they did. That's how it goes. But we've got everyone, all different customs, but we should all try and appreciate everyone's customs. So 15, and then we finish the chapter and start a new one.
Rabbi, when somebody sits in front of me with a huge hat and I can't see anything, I have to move.
Yeah. Well, no, you poke a pin into the hat and it deflates. It happens. Yeah.
What are you? I have a question for.
Please.
What are you seeing?
Well, I
You
guess
said
she
mo-
wants.
I'm only
She
so
wants.
seeing
most
the
of the
hat.
time-
I'm not seeing the rabbi. I'm not seeing the husband. I'm not seeing anything. This big hat is in front of me and I'm so short.
You don't need to see the rabbi. You don't need to see the chazan. All you need to do is daven. That's all. Just
Okay,
don't
but
worry
I'm not
about the
davening.
hat.
I'm not davening. I'm just enjoying the ceremony. Trying to.
All right, 15. Kaif and Minay is live nice base Knesset base Midrash. You're allowed a city, a Jewish town, has the authority to force the Jews who live there to contribute to building a shul. And to purchase Jewish books to be in the shul for people to study. I'd like to see someone do that today, but in concept, halachically, we have the authority. Makom she'ain minyan tamid. Now, a place where there's not a steady minyan. Kaifin zed zeh b'knasa shavat tamid the minyan. Again, the community has the authority to force people by imposing fines to make them come to shul. Shalei is batal tamid in order that it shouldn't go. I once davened in the shul where sometimes there was difficulty in the mornings getting in. So one of the members says, we should make everyone pay $1,000 bond, and every time they miss, we take $100 off. I said, yeah, that's really going to improve our attendance, isn't it? It's like then no one's going to come. But in theory, the community has authority to do that. Now, even if you have those who are full-time Torah scholars and they're sitting and studying, they should pause. They should stop their study and you can force them. Again, the community has the ability to force them to join the minyan. Because there should be a set time for study and a set time for prayer. Each one has their own set time. Now, of course, places like we have today, it's not really those kind of communities. Communities were in Europe.
Rabbi?
Yes.
I'm sorry, I don't mean to. What I wanted to ask you, which takes predilection, the filah or learning? And I'm just curious, under which circumstances?
Well, each one should have its time. So it should have a time for davening and a time for learning. There were certain people, like Rabbi Shimon Bar Yochai, who had such incredible commitment to learning that they used to daven once every 30 days. We're talking about, one of the greatest scholars in Jewish history.
Yes.
But a regular person has to do both. There should be time for davening and time for learning. So I was just saying that when we're talking about community has they have the authority to force members to do that. What used to happen is the community used to be the one that represented the Jewish person to the government, who the taxes went through. That's what the community was. Today, particularly in America, there's no such thing really as a Jewish community in that respect. I mean, we have Jewish communities and we have many congregations, but with respect to having a community that people are members of a community that has this type of authority, has this type of thing, there's really no such thing. The closest that you could probably say, let's say as an example, I'm not saying the only example, as an example, let's say in Crown Heights, they elected a Beis Din, right, a Jewish court. So that means by accepting, the community accepted those people's authority over themselves.
Would a kollel be considered a kahal? I mean, basically more of a kahal.
It's a kahal in a certain respect, but not in this respect. You have a look. Let's say I'll just give an example, just to understand what Jewish life is like. So, in Germany, the Reform took over the Jewish community. So the Orthodox who wanted to make, let's say, for example, Samson Raphael Hirsch, he wanted to make a breakaway community. He had to get permission from the palace, from the government, to be able to secede from the Jewish community and make their own Jewish community, Orthodox community. And as I said, it was the community that they're the ones who paid the taxes, so therefore they levied the people. It was a whole different setup. You know, there was even for several hundred years in Poland, there was the communities called the Vad Arba Artsos, the Committee of the Four Lands. You know, and sometimes there's 3 lands, and at a certain time there's 5 lands, but most of the times it was 4 lands. You know, it was the regions of the Polish Empire at the time, and they had authority from the government not to even give death penalty. It was like the Jewish community was totally autonomous. And that's what we're talking about. So, you know, when on a small scale in a town, when you have your community, so the community is able to force people, if they want to be part of the community, well, then you have to chip in and do your bit. That's today we don't, like I said, today we don't really have, nothing set up like that.
It does exist though in Mea Sherim and in Eretz Yisrael, doesn't it? I mean, basically.
To a certain extent, but again, it's a voluntarily, you know, meaning that you have certain communities. You could even say you have certain Hasidic communities that say, like in upstate New York, right? And if you want to live in the community, you have to keep the rules.
Rabbi, every temple has memberships, don't they? Most every temple.
Yeah, but it's not this. I mean, it's not a membership in the respect that I can force you to pay towards certain projects or force you to attend, or I can encourage someone, but it's not like, you know, we had the authority, which means you know, it doesn't say it here, but you know, if they didn't listen to the community, they get excommunicated, which means they can never walk into a store. The non-Jews aren't going to do business with them anyway. No one wants no one in Poland wanted, or Hungary, this is written, didn't want to know the Jew anyway. So if you got excommunicated from the Jewish community, it means you couldn't go into any store, you couldn't buy clothes, you couldn't interact with part of the community. And so and I'm not saying that was never abused, that power either. You know, that also created problems. But generally speaking, it worked for many years. All right, different world. Chapter 13. Dinei Kedushas Beis Knesses Beis Midrash. These are the laws of the sanctity, I guess, for lack of a better translation. Kedusha really means the spirituality, maybe is a better word, but the sanctity / spirituality of a Beis Knesses, which we're going to loosely translate as a synagogue, and a Beis Midrash that we're going to loosely translate as a study hall. But the reality is, we probably call them both today a synagogue or a shul. You know, it's and be very rare to have a pure Beis Knesses today. So that we discussed briefly a chapter or 2 ago. Technically, a Beis Knesses is a place where there's only davening. So there wouldn't be sermons, there wouldn't be classes. It's only davening. And a Beis Midrash is a place where you daven and learn. Usually the learning is the more emphasized, but you have other activities. So most shuls today, the way they're set up, would officially be a Beis Midrash. But anyway, we overlap today. Not only we overlap Jews of all different backgrounds, we overlap our buildings into one. Okay. So Aleph, number 1. Kedushas Beis Knesses Beis Midrash Gedola Ma'od. The sanctity of the we'll just call it the synagogue because it's 2 types, is very great. And we are commanded to be in awe of the one who dwells there. obviously Hashem is everywhere, but is more revealed or should be more revealed. K'dichsiv, as it says, how do we know? It says mikdashi tirau. Have a reverence for my sanctuary. That's actually talking about the base of Mikdash. The holy temple of Jerusalem has been destroyed. But a shul and the study halls, they're also called a mikdash, a sanctuary. Okay, we're going to see a little bit later, they're called a mikdash ma'at, a mini sanctuary. The Ksiva says, the mikdash ma'at, and I will be to them a mini sanctuary. And what is that verse talking about? And so we see that this verse is discussing our shuls and study halls of various things. So the same way we're meant to have an awe and a reverence and a certain level of dignity and respect in the base of Mikdash, that's what we should have on a certain, at least part way inside a shul. And therefore, the person can't speak. We're going to translate the Devarim B'Teilim as idle talk. Okay, and we'll go slightly off the topic here to just sort of by process of elimination. Saying hello to someone and greeting them. Okay, there's some parts of davening you can't talk, so it's not appropriate at that point to greet someone. But presumably everyone came on time, a few minutes early, so they can done with a minyan to greet someone when they come in, to say, "How are you?" That's not the Devarim B'Teilim. That's not idle talk. That's a friendship between Jews. That's a mitzvah Havas Yisrael. And then there are certain people who they've had some misfortune, and you might ask them, "How's the job hunting going?" Okay, it's not to be a yenta to know everyone's business. It's because you're either you genuinely want to help, or even if you can't actually help by finding them a job. But we know when people get their problems off their chest, they feel better. Well, they get to discuss what's going on. There's a friendly ear. So there's what I mean by Devarim B'Teilim, as an example, a person doesn't need to when they come into shul, sits down next to his buddy and ask him, what's the scores in the local game? Right? That can wait till after shul. We don't need to discuss how the stocks are going and various things. So it can change a little bit depending on time, place, and who you're talking to. Right? Some people are emotionally needy and they need a little extra chatting that you wouldn't do with someone else in the shul. It can change. But I think we just get that general idea. In other words, it's not the social club. Now, there may be a social hall or other places where we do talk, and maybe after davening we'll talk at the front and various things, and there's a time and a place. But in shul, it's meant to be a place where we're focusing on our relationship with Hashem and our spiritual growth. Okay. And we shouldn't be doing calculations in the shul. You don't sit down there and do your bookkeeping unless it's for a mitzvah. Right? You might sit down in the shul and work out. We've got the shul building fund and let's see how things are going. Or some other mitzvah, helping someone who needs help financially, or help someone with a wedding. He says, going for example, Kupa Shel Stock Kedoma, the Stocker Fund, the charity fund. Person's allowed to work on that in a shul, but sit down in the shul and start doing your books or your business. It's not the place. And they should be treated with respect, and they should be kept very clean. Right? Shul should be a respectful place. And there should be candles lit. Today we have electric lights, but before electric lights, it should be lit. In other words, out of respect So even if someone's not using it at that moment, there should still be some light, as just as a respectful place. And it's an interesting thing, and we'll also discuss a little bit. You shouldn't kiss small children in shul, your small children, because you're only meant to be showing love to Hashem. Now, again, the time and a place. A little kid falls over and he's crying and he needs a little hug and a, whatever. Little 2-year-old, you don't leave him crying. You take care of the 2-year-old. But it's not family time, right? I take my boys to shul even from when they're quite little, and and so they sit with me and we're done. But so we do spend time together. But it's not family time where you're hugging your kids and playing with your kids, and that it's a time to work in a relationship with Hashem. Okay. Base number 2. So a lot of these things that we're going to say really are just the symptoms. It's a way of implementing what we're saying. So for an example, it says, before you enter the shul, wipe your feet. Don't make sure if you've got any mud on your feet, you wipe it off with the doormat. So you walk in, that's showing respect, not to walk in with dirty shoes. And you should make sure that when you walk in, there's no dirt on your clothes or your shoes. You should look presentable. There's nothing wrong with being a mechanic and having your work clothes covered in grease, but you should change before you come to shul. Mutter lirik behem, avshash take baraglov. You're allowed to spit in the shul, but you have to straight away rub it in with your feet. They used to have dirt floors. Don't forget that was in the old days. Today, although there is a certain place in davening that where many people have accustomed to spit, we'll speak about it much later when we get there. But general spitting, just it's an interesting thing. A retired rabbi, I once heard his some of his lectures on a tape. Remember tapes? Right? Tapes. So my kids don't even know what they are, but the younger kids. But he was talking about growing up, I guess the 40s. Couldn't even be he was a kid in the 30s, because when I was in his 90s now. He was talking about, he said, he believed, although there was challenges in those days to keep Shabbos, but the thing that drove away the American youth from orthodoxy the most was the spittoon. Listen, so that was in his opinion that drove his generation away from. Anyway, that's today. There's plenty of tissues around in most shuls, so you can take care of everything a little more subtly. Okay. Gimel, number 3. So a person shouldn't go into the shul in the summer just have shelter from the heat, or to have shelter from the rain. Right? No, the shul is not your the equivalent of the bus stop that you run into to get out of the weather, get some shade or something. You can't shame as a psukim, as a mishnah, or yom as tefillah. So therefore, the person does go into the shul for one of these reasons. It started pouring down with rain. He's in front of the shul. He quickly runs in. He should sit down, or she should sit down, and you should learn something, even just a few verses, or say a small prayer. In other words, it shouldn't be that you came in just, even though it might have been the rain that motivated you, but it shouldn't be, it's just, I stand under the roof like a lahavdil, stand under the bus stop till the rain passes. You come in, you sit down, you learn a little something, And at least that way you're using it with purpose. So you shama chayim ez limud, or you listen to some others who are studying there, listen to what they're saying. L'chol hapachos yesh shama ato, at the very minimum, at least pause, sit for a little bit. You got me shiva behem hi mitzvah, because also sitting in a shul is a mitzvah. So someone who's unable to learn today, Baruch Hashem, you can get things in English and every other language you can imagine. But if this before it was so readily available, the person didn't have the ability to study from the original Hebrew Aramaic texts, just sitting in the shul is also a mitzvah. It's maybe not as big a mitzvah as if you're also studying, but it's something as well, sitting at Hashem's house. And then after that, you can call your friend. If a person came in to get someone. So they come down, sit down for a minute, say a verse, say something, and then they call their friend. And later on, we're going to mention about using the shul as a shortcut. Sometimes the shuls went from one end of the block to the other, small block, and you shouldn't use the shul as a shortcut. If you do need to go through, then again, sit down and say a verse. It was a shul I went to, and they had bathrooms by the social, but they were out of order. So the other bathrooms were in the foyer of the shul, so you had to walk through the shul to use the bathrooms if you're in the social hall. So if someone's in that situation, the shul shouldn't be a thoroughfare. So as you go through, you just sit down, you say a verse. Don't sit there for 20 minutes. Verse can be, 10 seconds, something. Or a small prayer. It doesn't have to be a formal one from the sitter. You just ask something, say something to Hashem. Then you keep going. So that's those. Okay, Daled number 4. Now it's forbidden to eat or sleep in a holy place, even a short nap. Now this is really the basic Knesset. We're going to see the basic Midrash. You're allowed to. And so today, our shuls where we have a kiddush, some places have a separate social hall. Some people, the kiddush is in the shul. You put a plastic over the tables and you sit down and eat. So 2 things here. Number 1, it's more of a basic Midrash than a basic Knesset. And again, it's a technical difference. But the other point is if a person makes conditions when they set the shul up, then whatever conditions you made, you can have. So for example, the main Chabad community in Montreal, so they have a small shul. And maybe originally it was big enough. And the truth is, I can't say this is what they do now because I haven't been there in a long time. But when I was there quite a while ago, this is what they did. And so they had the weekday shul, and they had, a 6:30 minyan, a 7 o'clock minyan, 8 o'clock minyan, whatever it was, whatever the times were. Shabbos, and the school was also in that building. So Shabbos, when they had everyone daven together, they used the gym for davening, for Shabbos davening. They used the gym of the school. And they had a area that opened up, and behind what opened up was the Aron HaKodesh, was the Ark. So obviously, if that would have been set up as a shul initially, you can't say, well, now we're going to play basketball there during the week. No, it was the gym. They set it up. This is our multi-purpose communal area. And during the weekdays, the school is going to use it. I guess in Montreal there's a lot of snow. I guess a lot of playtimes are inside. They need a large indoor area during the school year. And on Shabbos, we use it as a shul. So if you made that condition initially, when you establish that place as daven, you can do that. So even if you really had a basic Knesset, a real synagogue, if a person made the condition when they first established it, they made the condition that we're going to have a kiddush in here, or we'll have, appropriate social activities, right? I emphasize appropriate. I'm not sure that, having hay rides and different things is the appropriate activity for inside the shul. But there are appropriate social activities. And so if you make that the condition of when you first open the place, then that works. But if there's no condition, if a person made it this is a base Knesset, a place for davening. Well, then you can't eat and drink and sleep. You can't do these things. Sarach mitzvah. Now, for a mitzvah, going for example, the Leil Yom Kippurim, Yom Kippur night, Mutter Lishon. So you're allowed to sleep, right? A lot of people used to sleep in shul on Yom Kippur. A lot of people used to sleep there. Ach Yisrach min ha'aron hakodesh, but you should distance yourself from the ark, from the holy ark. If you sleep in the shul on Yom Kippur. V'chein, and likewise, le'echol sham l'sorach mitzvah, to eat for the sake of a mitzvah. What's an example? Su'uda she'ein by shichrus l'kol saroshis would be a suda of a mitzvah. Let's say there was a bris, for example, and so you serve something, but without drunkenness or getting too. This is called, I don't want to say too much fun. You're allowed to have fun, wholesome fun, but like being lightheaded or silliness, without any silliness, levity maybe is the best word. Without levity, without drunkenness. That doesn't mean a person can't have a l'chaim. There's a difference between having a l'chaim. You say l'chaim to the person who's having a bris or bar mitzvah and drunkenness. Truth is, I'm going to take that back. For some people, it's not. Some people can't have anything, and so they shouldn't. But for many people, there's a huge difference. So then mutter, then it's allowed if you're having a suda, a meal for a mitzvah, and there's not drunkenness or silliness, then you're allowed to have it in the shul. The chayin, and likewise, there's another group of people who can eat in a base of midrash we're going to talk about now. Those who learn there regularly. So they study there every day. They're allowed to eat there and sleep there, so they shouldn't lose time for their studies. So this is why in many shuls, a lot of people will study before davening in the morning, and they'll have a cup of coffee while they're studying. There was a place I used to daven in Australia during the week, and they had wasn't the largest congregation. There was a few hundred families, but everyone was committed. It was type of shul where you actually had more people in a regular Shabbos than Rosh Hashanah and Yom Kippur. Like Rosh Hashanah and Yom Kippur, some people went to their Rebbe or something, so they went away. But so it was a very interesting place. So you had you had in that complex a formal synagogue, and that was only used for davening and special talks, and you couldn't take a cup of coffee in there. But then they had other areas, I'm going to say study halls within the complex, and the minyanim people, they daven there also, both Shabbos and during the week. You had, and the other places was. So it depends on how, again, like we said, whether it's really a base Knesset, a base midrash. Okay, and we'll squeeze in to finish the chapter. Shaboin and base Knesset, when you build a shul, you have to consult a Torah scholar. To determine exactly how it should be constructed. A lot of people don't really think about that. They think, you just whack up a building and no problem. But there are laws about building it, and there's things that one should have in the ideal world. We don't always live in the ideal world, don't always have the funding for the ideal world. It's just on a very simple level. Right? The shul should always, whenever possible, always have like a little foyer, not just for convenience. It's halakhically, person should, they should have that. Person can prepare themselves when they come into the building. They prepare themselves when they walk in. When people would consult with the Marcheshvan when they built a Chabad shul, he told me I should have a little room off the shul called the Chabadnitz. Right, so we're people who daven at length. They perhaps on a higher level, and they have different. They're really thinking through mystical intentions and different things. So it should be a smaller room on the side where people can, all these things go into consideration. A lot of older shuls in America, they built them facing the wrong way, right? Because it meant to daven towards Israel. But people who weren't aware, they built it whichever way the block went. This was the length of the block, so they made it that way. But it was the wrong way. It wasn't towards Israel, towards Jerusalem. So it's some of the things are more basic, some of the things are less basic. But a person should really try and consult with someone before they build the shul in the ideal world, to be able to make it the perfect place. The Aaron of Bells, he had a saying: if you could build a shul that every penny contributed towards its building was earned 100% kosher money, no one did any, there was nothing fishy, and you hired workers that were Torah scholars, and they didn't work on Shabbos or Yom Tov, and every worker got paid on time. It says when such a shul, when you would walk in and daven, you would automatically be able to connect to the highest levels. He said, just unfortunately, there's never been a shul built like that yet. That's so that's how it goes. That's how it goes. Any questions, thoughts? No? You know how that worries me. All right.
Okay, I have one question.
Okay, please.
When you're building the temple, how do you find the correct Torah scholar? How do you know they really have that knowledge? How do you?
Well, I think if you have someone that you feel is learned and honest, of course every rabbi is honest. I don't mean like that, but is more thinking about the outcome than what they can gain or anything out of it, then either they'll be able to help you, or they'll tell you honestly, I can't help you, but I'll find you who can, or I know who can. And it's everyone has their areas of expertise. Let's say, let's take doctors. There's lots of GPs, the general practice, but then you have specialists. And sometimes someone has more than one specialty, but you can't have someone who's a specialist in everything. But if you find a good specialist or a good doctor, even if he doesn't have the expertise you need, if he's really cares about your benefit, he's going to refer you or help you find someone who can. So we'll say, as using that as an example, I think that's
What about having a wedding or bar mitzvah in a synagogue? Because it's some traditional synagogues, for example, one that we saw, they even bring challah and, they give it to all of the guests in the sanctuary.
Yeah. So again, if that's how it was set up, that was the initial conditions, right? Now, in other words, this is a Jewish communal center, and we daven here, and we have weddings, and we have, but when a place is set up, this is a basic Knesset. Someone did that, and then it's limited what you can do. So, if you look at, let's say, most Chabad houses, for an example, when they're set up, it's really as a communal center.
Yeah.
And one of the activities we have is davening. It might be the most common activity, the davening or classes, and may be one of the most important. I'm not saying it's like, oh, we also daven, you know, it's a very important thing, but it's set up with intention to be a multi-purpose area.
Yeah, it's usually
Rabbi?
done on a different level. That's what I experienced. Okay, thank you.
You're welcome.
Rabbi?
Yeah, Moshe.
I want to ask you some, I hope this is not a strange question, but a mosque, because there's no avodah zorah that takes place in a mosque, can that be used as a place of
So
learning?
the Rambam rules that you're allowed to daven in a mosque, but you can't daven in a church. That's his ruling.
Yeah, that I'm aware of. But I
Yeah.
was just,
I'm not sure how safe it is to go. I don't think I'll be visiting too many mosques, especially right now. But in theory, yes.
the cave of Machpelah, my wife just brought up, she says.
Yeah, well, I mean, you know, it wasn't built as a mosque. It was built by Jews, that building.
Of course.
Well, built by Herod, semi-Jew, we'll call it, but on behalf of the Jewish community. So, you know, they stole it. We got part of it back. You know, the Arab colonialist occupiers
right.
who pushed the indigenous people, the Jews, off the land.
Right.
Exactly,
Right.
exactly, Rabbi.
Anyway, wish everyone a wonderful week. And
You
we'll
too,
see
Rabbi.
you. We'll learn again
Rabbi.
next week. God willing.
Legacy. Stay safe,
Thank
everybody.
you, Rabbi.
Thank you.
Take care.
Thank you.
Like I said, well,